Thanks for taking a break with me today. We'll be doing an easy flow, focusing on leaning into the transition of poses. So let's get started in a cross-legged seated position, either in a figure four where you actually bring your right ankle under your left knee, or just a classic tucked seated position. Feel free to have a blanket, bolster, something supporting you so you're able to really grow tall and rock your tailbone back and your shoulders back and gaze a little bit high. Hands planted by your knees. Close your eyes for 3 centering breaths. Begin just to find your breath. Notice how long or short. Notice how short it is. And since we're focusing on the transition of poses, leading into the ending of poses, see what the end of your breath looks like. Is it jagged, smooth? And try to have that transition be a pause, a 2-count pause. Maybe inhaling for 4, pause for 2, exhale for 4, pause for 2. Do this a couple more times on your own counts, taking a moment before we begin our flow to be centered in our breath. On your next exhale, begin to open your eyes. Raise your arms up and out to the sides, all the way up to the sky. Gaze high. And then on an exhale, we're going to twist over to our left. Twisting to the left, gaze goes all the way through, back and behind your left shoulder. Gaze back, grow tall. Try not to crunch over here. You're up and open. Inhale, come through. Exhale, other side. Over to the right, gaze behind that shoulder. We're opening up through our hips, curling through our spine, rotating all the way through. Don't stop here. Rotate all the way through. Deep breath. Exhale, come forward. If you have a blanket or a bolster, feel free to remove it now. As we come to a forward fold with crossed legs. Once again, either in that figure 4 or a classic position. Hands high, float forward, walk your fingertips forward, and then once you come forward that flat back, then you can curl and settle down. Breathe deeply into the ending of this pose, this fold. We're focusing today on transitions because the seasons that we're in are currently in transition. I just went for my first run of the year and probably will be going my last ski tomorrow. So as important it is to embrace the transition of the seasons, also important to embrace the transition of poses in yoga and to really lean into them. Let's switch which leg is out in front, coming into that figure 4 on the other side with your left ankle under your right knee. Come tall here. Exhale, float forward. Walk those fingertips forward. Allow your forearms to float down to the mat or the ground. Breathe here. Settling in to whatever uncomfortable feeling you might have in your hips. Feel free to stay a little higher if this is too intense. Most important thing is that you're broad and open and not crushed and contained. Float back up, high seated. We'll do a couple cat-cows in a seated position. So rolling down your gaze to your belly button, and then going high, gaze up and above you. Couple more times, exhaling as you curl down. Inhaling as you grow tall. Finishing the pose with the gaze. Back up to neutral. Let's come forward into tabletop position. Couple cat-cows in tabletop. Drop your belly, lift your gaze. Exhale, tuck your tailbone, drop your gaze down, release through your neck, full release here. Couple more cat-cows on your own breath. We'll settle down into this cow, dropping your belly, lifting your gaze, and begin to do some hip circles in the cow position with that dropped belly. Slow movement. Noticing how your hip feels. If you're like me and just started a new sport because of the new season, you might be really, really tight. I am definitely feeling it, and it's only been about half hour since my first run. Go to the other side if you haven't already. A couple more times. Let's come back up to center. And now we'll come into cat with your dropped gaze. And we'll do the same thing, but in cat. So this time, the rotation is more in our upper back and our shoulders. Other direction. So focus your breath there. In between your shoulder blades. And neutral. Great. Staying in this tabletop position, let's extend back with your right leg. And then bring it out to the side, coming in to a half wide-legged position. Light on your fingertips, flat back, gaze high. Exhale, come forward into a partial puppy kneeling pose. Send your hips back, gaze back, finish the pose. Come forward onto your hands as you bring your right knee back into center and extend out through your left side. Lots of sounds coming from my hips today. Walk your fingertips forward. Gaze back. Breathe here. Try not to come out of the pose before your breath brings you there. Finish the pose. Embrace the transitions. Coming back and through to your tabletop. Lifting up through your left knee. Bring your left foot to the sky and do 3 hip circles. One direction and then 3 the other. Great. Other side. Right foot to the sky and then bring your knee around. Big circles. 3 each direction. Great. Back to neutral. Plant your hands, send your hips high into downward facing dog. Pedal your feet, relax into the down dog. Float forward in your downward facing dog to a plank. Drop your knees slowly with your elbows digging into your body. Roll down, float up. Light fingertips, gaze high. Press back to your knees and then all the way back up to downward facing dog. Lift up and through with your left leg. Bring it tall and back behind you. Bend your knee. Open up. Gaze under your left armpit. On your exhale, float your knee to your chest. Drop your foot. Bend and drop that right knee. Light fingertips. Coming into a lunge. Light, light, light until you can float up and through. Gaze all the way back. Full transition. Float forward. Plant your hands. Step back up. Through three-legged dog. Downward dog. Inhale. Exhale. Lift up through the right side. Bend that right knee. Open up underneath that right armpit. Exhale, step it through. Drop your left knee. Drop your hips. Light on your fingertips until you can float all the way up. Pause for 2. Exhale, come forward. Plant your hands. Come and step back. Downward facing dog. Come forward into your plank. Drop your knees. Hug elbows into your body. Float up, light hands, coming it back in to baby cobra. Lower back down to your hands and knees, and then all the way high, down dog. Couple breaths to pause here. Lift up through your left leg, three-legged dog, straight legs. Have your hips centered here, so not opening up through that left side. Bend your knee straight through to a lunge. Come light on your fingertips. Keep that right knee up and off the mat. Plant down through your right hand and lift up through your left side. Pause for 2. Drop that left hand and then open up through your right side. Exhale, come back down. Light on your fingertips as you come up and through. Pause for 2. And float forward. Arms come back behind you. One more time, growing tall. Exhale, release. Step that left leg back through to three-legged dog with a straight leg. And then back through to downward facing dog. Repeat on the other side. Floating up through your right leg. Straight through your right knee. Pausing and then hugging in your knee to your chest. Plant your foot down. Light on your fingertips. Plant your left hand down. Lift up and through on your right side. Stacking shoulder blades. Fingertips spread wide. Moment to rest before you float down and reverse your twist. Breathing into your back. Noticing how you feel. Bring that left hand down. Light on your fingertips. Reach forward, float high. Exhale, sink. Forward, arms back to your sides. Inhale, tall. Sink down. Float through. Plant your hands, extending back. Three-legged dog with a straight knee. And release back down. Come forward, back to your plank. Drop your knees. Lower with elbows hugging into your body. This time pushing up and through to a full up dog. Shoulders roll back and down your spine. Knees lift up and off your mat. Gaze is high. This is too much. Feel free to stay in baby cobra. Float all the way back and through, coming to your knees or all the way back to downward facing dog. Lift up through your right leg, coming into bent leg, three-legged dog. And do 3 circles with your knee in one direction and then the other direction. Step your foot through. Drop your right foot back, coming into warrior 1. Your right heel is on your mat. Your front knee is at a 90-degree angle. Your hips sink down, hands to your hips. And then as you're ready, grow all the way through to warrior 1. Find strength here as you take a moment to sink down instead of coming up and out of this pose. Flow through the transition as you come forward. Bend your knee enough to plant your hands, lifting up through that back heel. Step back and through. Three-legged dog. Open up. Float down, down dog. We'll repeat on the other side. Lift up through your right leg. Bend your knee. 3 circles. Other direction. Back to down dog. And then all the way through. Left heel. Light on your fingertips as you grow tall. Sink down into your warrior 1. Find that 90-degree angle in your right knee. Find strength as we float back down. Plant your hands. Step that left foot to your right, coming into a forward fold. Bend your knees. Forward fold with bent knees. My legs are shaking a bit from all that movement. Embrace that as you grow up and tall. Bent knees to standing. Hands to heart center. The important thing about finding smoothness in transitions is embracing the calmness in between the 2 movements or seasons. So embrace the calmness in this still but powerful pose. Bring your arms back up above you. As you bring them up, sink your hips back. A little bit of chair pose action. Wonderful. Grow tall, straighten your knees. Bring your hips a little wider than hips width distance apart. This time sinking down to our yoga squat. Rock side to side here. Settle in here. Sink down, settle in. Come forward, keeping your knees wide. Float straight into child's pose. taking a moment to recognize your ability to embrace transitions and flow gracefully through a yoga flow. Thank you all so much for joining me and taking a break with me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next time.